Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. IELTS Me here with another video about IELTS reading, and in this video we're going to go through another type of summary completion, which as you can see down at the bottom, it comes with some pre-selected lists of words, and more often than not these options are going to outnumber the blanks. Well, for example, if you need an adjective for 21, there are 2 or 3 adjectives that are likely to go in the blank. And this is maybe because all grammatically designed in such a way with, of course, a little and a slight difference in meaning, which causes confusion and manipulation. Well, apparently not so much help from IELTS test designers. And lastly, in this particular question, same as the previous type, you're asked to complete the summary, and I recommend, if you haven't already seen the previous video, try to watch it before seeing this video for you to be able to follow and have better understanding of what we are going to be discussing about. Now, without further ado and enough of intro, let's dive into it and let's begin. Well, if you take a look at the question, the rubric is telling us to complete the summary by using the list of words which is given down below from A to I. And the next important thing which you should notice is the title of the whole summary. Well, it could be sometimes helpful because it could guide us through a specific paragraph, which there lies all the answers. Because for summary completion type of question, if you happen to find the answers for 18 and 19 in one paragraph, say in paragraph 2, so the rest of the questions and keywords are gonna be found exactly right underneath that paragraph, or maybe sometimes you would find rest of the answers even prior to 18 or 19. So it's not something you should go far beyond that paragraph and go from paragraph 2 to paragraph 5 or 6. And well, this means the questions and the answers for summary completion, it has order. If you find the right answer for 18 and 19 in one paragraph, then 20 and 22 and 21 should be in the following paragraph. Although it is not for 100% guaranteed, maybe in some situations it happens that, you know, for question 20, the answer is in paragraph 1, and for 18 and 19, it is in the following paragraph. So let's now read through this summary completion as we also talked in the previous video. Let's read through it, and in doing so, let's define also the keywords. Documentation of past weather condition is limited, so it's limited. Our main source of knowledge in the distant past are something and something. So when you see something like and, that means it should be parallel. That means if you need noun and adjectives, so there should be noun and adjectives for both the blanks. And if it is noun, it is noun. If it is adjective, it is adjective, or combination of both. And we can deduce that. Deduce what? Deduce little i's age was a time of, rather than consistent freezing. So it was not consistent freezing alone, but it was something else. Well, let's go ahead and carry on. Within it, there were some periods of very cold winters, others of something and heavy rain. Again, we see and. That means it has to do with heavy rain and in relation with this. And yet others saw with no rain at all. Now, if we study the options, of course, there is climatic shifts, ice cores, tree rings, glaciers, interactions, weather observations, heat waves, storms, and written accounts. Now, it's time to go into the text and try to find the associated keywords in accordance with the documentation first. And past distance, these are very keywords that stand out. And of course, a time of rather than consistent freezing. Now let's go into the text to find out these. So the Little Ice Age is the title of whole reading. So this book provides detailed examination of Little Ice Age and climatic shifts. Well, there's climatic shift, as we also saw it, among those options. And before I embark on, let me provide historical context. So maybe this paragraph is going to talk about historical context. So glacial episodes in the past, our ancestors adapted to it. So there was global warming, irregular global warming since the end of last great ice age. 10,000 years ago. You see, there's no something that has to do with the documentation. Nothing yet. Adopted agriculture, stock raising, revolutionized human life. Nothing yet. Little Ice Age lasted roughly 1,300 years until the middle of the 19th century. Okay. Let me see. Europe experienced a cycle of bitterly cold winters. Bitterly cold winters. See, this is something that we found as a keyword. Very cold winters, bitterly cold winters. And as I told you, maybe 21 and 22 are going to precede 18, 19, and 20. And I don't know, maybe. Let me see. Bitterly cold winters, mountain glaciers in Swiss Alps. Okay. Pack ice surrounded the island. The climatic events of the Little Ice Age did more than help shape modern world. They are a deeply important context. Okay, the Little Ice Age was far from deep freeze. The Little Ice Age was far from a deep freeze. However, rather an irregular seesaw of rapid climatic shift, few lasting more than a quarter century, driven by complex and still understood interactions between the atmosphere and the ocean. See, the Little Ice Age, I found the Little Ice Age, which was here. The Little Ice Age was a time of rather than consistent freezing. Let me see if I can find the consistent freezing. The Little Ice Age was far from a deep freeze. So deep freeze, I can say, is exactly the same as consistent freezing. Consistent freezing, deep freeze. However, rather an irregular seesaw of rapid climatic shifts. So I think I found the answer, climatic shifts. So this is gonna be the answer for this one. Time of climatic shifts. So I should write A here. And let me see documentation, because here there's nothing about documentation. Driven by complex and still understood interactions between the atmosphere and the ocean, the seesaw brought cycles of intensely cold winters, intensely cold winters, then switched abruptly to years of heavy spring and early summer rains. heavy spring and heavy rains, mild winters and frequent Atlantic storms, 2 periods of droughts. So there is climatic shifts from cold winters to springs and heavy summer rains, then frequent Atlantic storms to the periods of droughts. Light northeasterly winds and summer heat waves. So I can say droughts, it means no rain. The time of no rain. No rain. No rain. So let me see. Within what? Within that time, there were some periods of heavy cold winters. Exactly, heavy cold winters. Intensely cold winters. Bitterly cold winters. And easterly winds. Then switched to years of heavy rain, heavy spring and early summer rains. So we have it here. Periods of very cold winters, others of heavy rains. So something that has to do with heavy rain is what? Mild winters, frequent Atlantic storms, 2 periods of droughts. So before going to droughts, before going to no rain, there is heavy rain, and of course, you guessed it, storms. Now, it's time to answer question number 22, and it says, yet others that saw blank with no rain at all. And if you remember, we found the synonym for a time of no rain at all, and it was a time of drought. Well, they saw something or a time with no rain at all. So let's go back to the text to study it for the right answer and possible option. It says, to the periods of droughts, light northeasterly winds and summer heat waves. Now, in this time, there are 2 things that happened, and winds and summer heat waves. Now, which is going to be the right answer? Let's go back to the options and consider if there is wind or maybe the heat waves. Well, there is no sign of wind, but there is heat wave. So the answer could be nothing but G. Now, I want to add something here. If you study it, this question, this sentence, better to say, includes 2 answers. Within it, the time of climatic shifts, of course, there were some periods of heavy cold winters, others of, and heavy rain, others of storms and heavy rain, and yet other that saw the time of drought or no rain at all. I want to give you a golden hint, of course, here. If you notice, there are apparently 3 clauses. One over here, which I call it as a road. Within it, there were some periods of heavy cold winters, and then others of shifted to another road, and from here again to another road. So apparently it's somehow like there are 3 roads in one highway. Let's go and define it and see it for ourselves if it actually is reflected also in the text or not. Well, the seesaw brought cycles of intensely cold winters and easterly winds. Then So another road exactly started right from here, then switched abruptly to heavy rains, to years of heavy spring and early summer rains, mild winters, frequent Atlantic storms. So as you can see, there are lots of other options. Why are these here? Because they're going to manipulate you to choose maybe other options or take also these kind of words into consideration and your thoughts. And then there is also another road started right from here to the periods of droughts, light northeasterly winds, and summer heat waves. So it is exactly the same as the question, which is designed in this way. There are 3 roads in one highway. And now, what are we left with? We are left with questions 18 and 19. Documentation of past weather condition is limited. Our main source of knowledge of conditions in distant past are something and something. Well, you might now think that knowledge, which in this sentence is the subject, has to do with weather observations and written accounts, but let's go to the text and consider what actually is going to be the right answer. Reconstructing the climatic changes of the past is extremely difficult because systematic weather observation began only a few centuries ago. In Europe and North America, records from India and tropical Africa are even more recent. So I think recording these data, they have to do with the documentations. For the time before records began, I think this one here, records began, we have only proxy records reconstructed largely from tree rings and ice cores, supplemented by a few incomplete written accounts. So that time we had not very complete written accounts and lots of data, but rather we only had these proxy records. So for the time before records began, this is exactly the conditions in the distant past, our knowledge of conditions in the distant past, and we only had this proxy records. Well, what is this word only could be the synonym of? Well, for sure, it could be the synonym of the word limited, as in the question. This means we only had this. The only source of our knowledge was limited, and we only had these 2 ways of recording data. Now back to the text one more time. And there we go. Only proxy records reconstructed largely from tree rings and ice cores. Oh, we also found and. So the options, the right answers are going to be what? Tree rings and ice cores. Of course, you can write them in any order. You can write B for 18 or C for 19. So there's not going to be a big problem or a big issue. And I think we're done with this test. Although, as I told you right in the beginning of the video, 18 and 19, the answers for these 2 came after 20, 21, and 22. And that is simply because, if you notice, all the answers to the questions are concentrated and focused only in one part of the whole text, and that's simply because summary completion is like a story, and stories must be consistent. So it's not like you find one answer here in this paragraph B and then off you go and find the next answer in paragraph F. Well, we're done with this test also. I hope you found it useful and learned something, and if you did, and if you found yourself watching till the very end of this video, I'd be really thankful if you hit the subscribe button and of course give it a thumbs up, and you can as well hit the bell icon in order to be informed as soon as I release a new video. Thank you for watching.